As promised, I want to dive into what's actually going on in Europe. What's happening in Ukraine? Why? What are the ramifications for us? I don't have the answers, but I do know some pretty awesome people. Joining us live right now, this gentleman, U.S. Naval Academy graduate. He served as an infantry reconnaissance officer in the U.S. Marines, is a combat veteran. He served as a special agent in the FBI from 1996 to 2008. He was recruited out by the FBI, by the Department of Defense to conduct strategic analysis of the Islamic threat. He is the president and the founder of Understanding the Threat. His name is John Guandolo. John, thank you for joining me. I need help with Ukraine, sir. I don't understand what's going on, and I've made no bones about that. So please walk me through what's happening and why we care here in the United States, please.
Well, that's a great question. I think there are a couple ways to look at this, but I want to maybe begin the discussion. First of all, thanks for having me. I want to begin the discussion by putting something on the table. I mean, I always like to kind of set the table for a discussion like this, and that is, when America goes to war, we should have a clear understanding when we authorize war. And I know we're not going to war yet, but I am concerned because we have people in charge that are juvenile in their understanding of the national security situation. They are adversarial towards people who want to defend the Constitution. And so a situation like this could be extremely dangerous for America and its citizens. And it can be used, like other things have been used recently, to infringe on our rights, our unalienable rights. So this is the perspective from which I even begin the discussion. Number one, when we go to war, there has to be a specific national security reason. America should not go to war ever unless there is a U.S. national security implication, no matter how sad the situation is. Now, we can, when we look under the reasons to go to war, there are sometimes, to defend allies, to defend people with whom we have treaties and those kinds of things. But other nations have a right to protect their sovereignty as they see fit. And so we have to set the table by asking, does Russia have the right to do what it's doing? And if not, what are our responses within that understanding of when we do and don't use military force? The United States spent 20 years, and one could argue we're still engaged, in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, parts of Africa, places like the Philippines, engaged in war, and we never even identified the threat. So through 4 administrations, and of course everyone watched as the catastrophic collapse of Afghanistan. So these people driving these wars, and it's not one political party, there are other players in this, are criminally negligent generals who decided we could fight a 20-year war and never actually identify the enemy. So I'm extremely concerned as I hear people rattling sabers already. I mean, the dust hasn't even settled in the debacle in Afghanistan. And there are people talking about, how do we engage Ukraine? Well, they're not a NATO ally, but they might be one day. And so we feel the responsibility. Well, but, I got a text from a colleague in the security realm, national security realm, about what I thought about the Ukraine situation. My response was, I'm not sure I have time to even give a crap about that right now. And I don't mean to sound dismissive, but we've got the entire American system is imploding. And there is a war being waged right here inside our borders by a federal government that is bent, clearly based on their behavior, on destroying the unalienable rights or assaulting the unalienable rights of the citizens. So I have a hard time, working up even the energy to care about this. Now, we can talk about why it's happening. I mean, Russia believes, Ukraine shouldn't go into NATO, and they also have practical, economic concerns and all of that. But we're literally losing the republic as we speak. So I think 100% of our attention should be focused on that. It's like they say on the airplane, in the event of emergency, put your own mask on first before you help others. So that's my overview snapshot. We can chat in whatever direction you'd like to go.
No, I'm interested in that because I started yesterday and today saying I haven't paid much of attention, and I'm guilty as charged. I see this come up on the iPad or on TV. I don't watch TV, but come up on the sources that I pay attention to. I literally, John, go right by it because there are so many other more important things going on in this country, and I feel like this is a huge distraction, yet another distraction. As Joe Biden and his administration weaken this country. I mean, we are almost like a figment of our former selves, and it's only been 13 months, sir.
And that's exactly right. It's I think the appropriate analogy is our house is on fire, and somebody's at the front door trying to explain this. The guy in 5 counties over needs help. I'm just, I can't imagine from a national security standpoint, the federal government, to be as clear as I can be for your listeners, the federal government in all components of the government is utterly corrupted. And it's not just that things are bad. The communists and the jihadis are running the show, just so we're clear. That is what's going on. These components of government and the lies the propaganda is so massive. And so the way, I'll just give your audience a little maybe visual to put in their heads. And this seems to work because I've been briefing recently a number of large audiences, and that light bulb immediately goes on. If you just think about all the issues that patriots care about, pro-life, the right to keep and bear arms, the freedom of speech and religious freedom, getting communism and pornography out of our elementary schools, securing the border of the United States, voting fraud and the massive corruption of the voting system, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all of that, and the lies, the massive lies that are being regurgitated by the media. And they've got us focused on the issues. They've got us focused on all these issues, and they're assaulting along 100 different areas. And we just feel like we got to do something. Just like they've got our security services, local law enforcement, FBI, when they do anything productive, focused on violence. People that want to shoot things, blow things up. We're all focused on that. Meanwhile, under the surface of that iceberg, if you will, is this massive movement in the United States that is a conglomerate of the Islamic movement, the communist movement, the collaborators and their financiers who are not necessarily ideologically aligned, plowing through the water, at 20 knots, this 500-ton freighter. And it is continuing daily to bring down the republic and destroy the underpinnings of the entire republic. While we are creating policies to push back on vaccine mandates and policies, you can't win a war by policies, but as long as they keep our attention on that, as long as the media tells us, this is the clue for all your listeners, if the media is pushing the Ukraine-Russia story, they have an agenda. And the agenda is what you just said, Wendy. It's to keep us focused on that while they continue to chop away at the republic and take down the entire republic. That's what's going on. And so as long as we don't focus on the root cause, the communist movement, the thousands of organizations in America and the leaders, the 75 or so members of Congress that we can clearly identify as either communists themselves or working with the communist movement, so what's the difference? or the fact that every prominent Islamic organization in America is hostile as a matter of legal evidentiary fact. And that is untouched. So some guy goes into a synagogue in Texas, or two guys blow up a bomb at the Boston Marathon, or they attack us on 9/11 with direct support from the Islamic movement in the United States. The movement is untouched, and we just deal with the incident. Same thing with everything else. I think until people grasp everything going on in that context, we're not going to understand what needs to be done to actually take back this country.
Do you have a few more minutes?
I do.
All right, hang tight for me real fast. John Guandolo, he is understanding the threat is an amazing resource. Please check it out.